Today, we're going to talk about something that completely changed what it means to be a kid, the laws that took children out of dangerous factories and put them into classrooms, really for the first time ever. Just imagine for a second, what if your whole day wasn't about classes and homework and seeing your friends at school? What if your main job, from the moment you woke up till late at night, was something else completely? Well, a couple hundred years ago, that wasn't just a thought exercise. It was reality. For millions of kids, their entire world wasn't a school, it was the loud, crowded, and pretty dangerous floor of a factory. To really get how childhood changed so much, we've got to go back in time, to a period that changed, well, pretty much everything.
This era was called the Industrial Revolution. It was this incredible period of invention, when huge, powerful machines started doing the work that people used to do by hand. And because of that, families started moving from farms out in the country to big cities to work in these giant new buildings called mills.
Now, life in one of these factories was totally different. It was ruled by a clock, not by the sun and the seasons. Everyone, including kids, had to follow a super strict schedule, working for over 12 hours a day. And all that time, you're surrounded by deafening machines, breathing in air that's thick with dust. And to top it off, these massive machines had absolutely no safety guards.
This brand new industrial world needed a ton of workers, and the factory owners turned to a source that today we would find just unbelievable. They turned to children.
So, you have to ask, why hire kids? Well, the reasons were practical, but also pretty cruel. Factory owners could pay them way less than adults, and their small size was actually seen as a good thing. They could easily crawl under these huge running machines to fix something or pick up fallen parts. And we're talking about really young children here. It wasn't strange at all for a kid to start their working life in a mill at just 6 years old.
Their workdays were incredibly long. You're looking at 12 hours, sometimes more, spent on their feet in these hot, packed rooms.
And maybe the most shocking part of all, through all of this, there were exactly 0 safety laws to protect them. None. If you got hurt, you were just replaced. But people started to realize this just couldn't go on.
So, this led to the very first attempts to make things better. But as you'll see, making a rule is one thing, but making it actually work, that's a whole other challenge.
The path to real change was a long one. The first attempt was way back in 1802, trying to limit the hours for apprentices. Then in 1819, a law set a minimum working age of 9, but it only applied to cotton mills. The really big, meaningful changes were still a ways off.
You see, these early laws had this one giant flaw. They were really easy to ignore. There was no one around to enforce them, so most factory owners just kept doing what they were doing. They knew nobody was ever going to come and check. But then, because of the hard work of some very dedicated people, a truly game-changing law finally got passed, and it would change the course of history.
These people were called reformers. They actually went into the factories, saw the terrible conditions for themselves, and fought to show the public the truth. They gave speeches, they wrote reports, and they slowly convinced everyone, including the government, that something had to be done to protect the nation's kids. All that work led to the Factory Act of 1833, which was a major turning point. It set clear limits: no kids under 9 allowed, and it capped the hours for older kids. It also introduced a pretty radical new idea. Working children had to get 2 hours of school every single day. But the most important change, the one that made all the difference, was that they started hiring inspectors.
And that was the real difference maker. Before 1833, sure, laws existed on paper, but they were mostly ignored. After 1833, for the very first time, the government hired official inspectors who had the power to walk into any factory and check things out. If an owner was breaking the law, they could actually get in trouble. The rules finally had some teeth.
Okay, so a law from nearly 200 years ago might sound like ancient history, right? But its effects are all around us today. It left a lasting legacy. The fight didn't stop there. A few years later came the 10 Hours Act, which limited the workday for women and teenagers. And think about what a huge impact that had. For the first time, working families could actually have time together in the evenings.
These laws also gave workers a new idea. They started forming groups called trade unions, banding together so they could speak with one powerful voice to fight for better pay and safer workplaces. It was really the start of the modern workers' rights movement.
So when you look back, the legacy of these factory acts is enormous. First, they established the fundamental idea that a child's place is in school.
Second, they created our modern expectation that workplaces must be safe. And third, they proved that every worker has basic rights that deserve to be protected by the law.
And these laws, which were first passed in Great Britain, ended up becoming the blueprint for rules in countries all over the world. The principles they set up are really the foundation for how we think about work and school even now.
It kind of makes you think, doesn't it? Things like having a weekend, or a minimum wage, or safety equipment on a job. What's a right that we have today that was born from these early struggles? A right that we might completely take for granted?